until Russia has been defeated, there is not going to be a lasting ceasefire. And nobody seems to be prepared to acknowledge that fact and do what needs to be done, which is think strategically about how Ukraine should be supported to achieve the defeat of Russia.
Now, President Zelensky's been visiting the UK as Andy Burnham's first international visitor since he took office. The British Prime Minister had this to say after his meeting with the Ukrainian president.
Overall, it was a very warm meeting. I thought I would get on well with him, and I did. We got on very well indeed, and this is going to be a close partnership. I intend to visit soon, and we will build this, and we will work through the different issues that President Zelensky has, many of which we've gone into today.
Well, the two leaders visited a naval base in Portsmouth where they addressed Ukrainian military personnel.
I can announce today that we are going further. We're providing new, homegrown jamming technology to protect Ukrainian drones. It will help them to hit their targets and help save Ukrainian lives. It also shows the kind of innovation our industries can deliver together.
And the Ukrainian president expressed his gratitude.
Our relationship with the UK is stronger than ever, and I thank Andy for his commitment to this partnership and for giving so much attention to defense and to our security. And defense and security are never just words. When a country invests in defense and invests in security, cities like Portsmouth, local communities, ports and shipyards become stronger and stronger. They grow, they matter more.
Well, let's speak to Yulia Sirko, who's a Ukrainian MP and deputy head of the Holos party. Hello, Yulia. Yulia Sirko,
Hello.
can you hear
Hello,
us?
from
Yes,
Ukraine.
good afternoon. Thanks a lot for joining us. How important do you think it is that President Zelensky was the first international visitor to be welcomed here by our new Prime Minister?
For us, it's very, very important because UK is one of the strongest part of Ukraine, and we are very much appreciate for all British nation. And I think first visit of Zelensky is very, very important. Can you hear?
Yeah, I think we've got a little bit of trouble with the line and there's a bit of a delay. But let me just ask you, we heard the British Prime Minister Andy Burnham talking there about the specific technology which the UK is going to provide added protection for Ukrainian drones. Is that going to make a difference?
Yes, this is already on a battlefield used for many months. It's a stone cloak. Jamming system, which is very important, particularly in a drone wars. Now it's a drone war, and drones targeting not only Ukrainian army, but also Ukrainian civilians. So this technology, British technology, developed as an innovation, as a startup, very, very important, which is allowing us to save civilian lives, first of all, and then to fight back our territories and our land. So against drone. It's a very new and very important that this technology is now testing on the battlefield. It's very efficient, and I think for Britain it's also important because you can use it further in developing your own weapon to protect your own country.
Ukrainian MP Yulia Sirko, we've got a little bit of trouble with the line. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's talk to General Sir Richard Shirreff, who is a former NATO Deputy Supreme Allied Commander for Europe. Good afternoon to you, General Sir Richard Shirreff.
Good afternoon. Very good to be with you.
So Andy Burnham making it clear 1 week after he took office that the UK is continuing with, as he put it, his unwavering support for Ukraine. How important do you think that is?
Well, it's vital. and UK should be pretty proud of the fact that UK has been in the lead for this right from the very start in the dark days of February 2022. But it's right that we are, not least because this thing is directly impacting our own security and will do so for generations to come. But I would say that words are one thing, and the break stop, the technology sharing is really, really important. Let's be clear about that. But more's got to be done, because until Russia has been defeated, there is not going to be a lasting ceasefire. And nobody seems to be prepared to acknowledge that fact and do what needs to be done, which is think strategically about how Ukraine should be supported to achieve the defeat of Russia.
Well, we have seen both the UK and other European NATO allies trying to step up their support for Ukraine. Are you saying that even what we're doing and the technology that we've heard about there doesn't go far enough?
I'm saying exactly that it's got to be done in a strategic context. And a strategy it's got to start with what are the objectives to achieve a lasting peace in Europe? And the first objective is defeat of Russia in Ukraine. And the way to get there is not only military support. We don't need to teach the Ukrainians how to fight. They're doing incredibly well. But we are providing and can provide some aspects of military technology to enhance that. But it's wider than that. It's support with advice on manpower, mobilization, training, and higher formation command potentially as well. But I would also say that any strategy to be truly strategic has got to think about economic and financial and cognitive warfare. Because at the end of the day, I don't think Putin is ever going to give up his intent to remove Ukraine from the map. And no matter how many Russians die and continue to die, he will go on battering away. And the only way this thing is going to end in a lasting ceasefire is when Putin is taken out of power. And that means bringing down the Russian economy. And for that, the nations of the West and NATO need to think strategically.
Well, doesn't this also then come back to that critical issue of defence funding here in the UK? We heard from the new Defence Secretary, Wes Streeting, yesterday. He was talking about the significance of John Healey, who of course resigned over this issue of defence funding, who is now the Chancellor. We've not yet had any new commitments on exactly, for example, when the UK might get to spending even 3% of our GDP on defence. Do you think that in order to make a difference, we do need to see some significant movement on that?
Absolutely. And I watched the Laura Kuenssberg interview with the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister was doing everything he could to be pinned down on whether he would support an increase in defence spending to 3% of GDP by 2030. Until we see politicians and leadership prepared to be bold and to say this is what we're going to do, and to lead the country, to make it clear that sacrifices are going to have to be made to achieve that, I'm afraid I'm not optimistic.
So, I mean, we've got John Healey. He resigned saying that he felt that the current level of funding was not sufficient to keep the country safe. He is now the Chancellor. Do you think that when it comes to presumably the budget in the autumn, there will then be a big, significant new commitment from the new government?
I'm not going to be optimistic until I see the product. I'm afraid I just simply don't trust the leadership of this country to do what needs to be done, given the way they've performed, not only in the last couple of years, frankly, it's not just the Labour Party, but the government before then. We've had decades of underfunding of defence, and we've yet to see any leader step up and say unequivocally, by any Prime Minister, state unequivocally what needs to be done. It's a very good sign that John Healey, who did what he could as Defence Secretary, is now the Chancellor of the Exchequer. But there's a long history of poachers turning into gamekeepers when they get into different positions of power.
Does there need to be an early announcement then of additional funding to fund the Defence Investment Plan? We had the whole big strategic review, a long wait. We finally got the plan, and then almost as soon as it landed, it seemed that half of that hadn't even got funding committed to it.
We absolutely do need to see that. But we've also got to see a recognition that this isn't something that we can sit back and say, well, by 2030, this is a problem right now. And there's got to be an immediate plan to turn around the deficiencies in British defence, because things could change overnight in the next few months. And we've got to be ready for that.
As you say, the biggest immediate threat to the country is from Russia. But we've also got the new Defence Secretary, Wes Streeting, talking to his American counterpart, Pete Hegseth, about a potential role in some force to try and patrol the Strait of Hormuz. Now, that is intended to be something that will only happen once the conflict ends. We're clearly a very long way off that at the moment. But is it realistic for Britain to play a role in that when we already know that our forces are very stretched? It seemed to take an awfully long while to send one warship to the region when the particular conflict between the US, Israel and Iran began. Realistic role could Britain play in this?
Well, it is absolutely realistic for Britain to play a role in keeping the Strait of Hormuz open after some possible potential ceasefire between Iran and America. And that is an awful long way off, so don't hold your breath there. And in fact, I'd go further and say it's for NATO too, because the purpose of NATO is not only to defend the land borders, the airspace of the alliance, but also to defend the sea lines of communication. And clearly, the Strait of Hormuz is a very important sea line of communication. Our welfare, our economy, of not only of the UK, but more broadly Europe and indeed the NATO alliance, and indeed internationally, depends on it. So it is realistic, and of course we've done it in the past during the tanker wars most successfully. So it is realistic, and Britain's defence starts not on the White Cliffs of Dover. It's also the forests of Estonia and Latvia. But it's also the sea lines of communication, and we should, as an island nation, absolutely be ready to do something to keep those lines of communication open.
General Sir Richard Shirreff, former NATO Deputy Supreme Allied Commander for Europe. Really good to have you with us this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, we can now speak, we'll try again, with hopefully a better line, to Yulia Sirko, who's a Ukrainian MP, deputy head of the Holos Party. Yulia, can you hear us well this afternoon?
Yes, I can hear you well. Can you hear me?
Yes, good to have you back with us. I don't know whether you were able to hear General Sir Richard Shirreff. He was saying that although it was important for the UK to pledge its support for Ukraine, to provide the extra technology that has been announced this afternoon, that the UK and its allies need to go far further in terms of a strategic plan to confront Russia. Would you agree with that?
100% agree. I think the help and in general decisions which our European and Western allies are taking, they are very fragmented. So there is no big strategy how to keep Russia away from the neighbors' borders, and how to actually win the battle with Russia. So I think, and also we understand that if Russia will be able to conduct more operations, open a second front like with Baltic countries or Poland, it will be very dangerous for Europe and for NATO in general. So I think it should be more solid, bold strategy how to strategically deter Russia, and how to be ready for any scenarios which could be in the European Union continent, or in Europe continent, or with other countries. So we see that Russia aggressively behaving in seas, in oceans, in straits. They are trying to keep their shadow fleet keep on going. They are trying to use imperfect international law to operate a huge shadow fleet, which is very dangerous, and it's now total to 1,500 vessels in general. It's very.
Well, let me ask you about Ukraine's latest strategy in the war, because it does seem as though Ukrainian forces are increasingly taking the attack to Russia itself. We've seen increasing numbers of attacks on Russian oil installations and infrastructure, and indeed on cities like Moscow itself. Is that a deliberate change of strategy to try to bring the war closer to the Russian people?
It's not only closer. The main strategy is to bring war back to Russia. So that's what actually Britain did in World War II. So Britain and allies brought back war to the German territory. And that's our main strategy. With a middle strike and deep strikes, we are bringing the war, absolutely just war, started by Russia, back to Russian territory. So Russian citizens have to feel how to live without energy, without electricity, without water, without gas. And I think that will turn the table, and they will start thinking that probably Putin not the best leader of the country without electricity and without gasoline.
Yulia Sirko, Ukrainian MP, Deputy Head of the Holos Party. Good to have you with us and for battling on with the technical problems. Good to speak to you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.